Hello and welcome back to Game of Pownes. In this episode we are continuing the debate battle between Ana Kasparian and Tomi Lauren, and this battle will take place on board some spaceships. If you remember in the last episode, Tomi chased Anna's ship in order to get some victory from this war, however small. So, let's have a look at the armies involved in this battle. Tomi's ship has a full complement of crew as it was undamaged, and so she has a Fadic Elite squad, 3 Fadic Guard squads, and 20 basic ship's crew, totaling 324 points. Anna's ship was damaged in the combat with Tomi Lauren's ship, and so she lost about 40% of her crew. So all she has for this battle are 1 light squad, 1 light basic squad with black koalas, of which there are 7, 2 heavy squads, of which 1 has its leader missing, and 1 combat squad. And she also has 2 commanders in her army. This gives her a total of 337 points. All victory points have been reset to 0 for this battle, and so have the luck and blessings. So, let's continue with round 9 of this debate battle.
Truly. Let's talk about the economy. Let me ask you first. The unemployment rate is the lowest it's been in quite a while. The general consensus, well, I can't say the general consensus, but polling numbers amongst Americans indicate that more believe that they're doing better now than they have in recent decades. Does this not help President Trump's argument that he has done a good job with the economy? I mean, I would imagine that there will be many who would say, well, he's reaping the benefits of President Obama's economy, but I doubt you'd say that. And I think regardless of what you believe, who's to credit for it, President Trump will probably get the credit for that. So is President Trump not responsible, or at least the Republicans in Congress and the House not responsible, for an improvement in the stock market, an improvement in the unemployment rate?
So I'm going to rewind a little bit and talk about Obama and how he improved the economy, right? So there might be some people on the left who don't like what I say here, but it's the truth. Obama did improve the economy for those at the top. And that improvement has continued for those at the top. And let me be specific. I think that the Trump administration took a problem and unfortunately made it worse. So the tax cuts for the wealthy, that's $2 trillion in tax cuts for the very top over the next 10 years. And that is going to defund things that this country needs so desperately, including improvements to our infrastructure, including, social safety net programs that us Americans, we've paid into. You know, people like to say that it's nothing more than a handout. I don't know. I look at my taxes. I see how much of it goes toward those programs that I should be able to take advantage of at some point in the future. But nonetheless, look, if you look at statistics that actually matter, so yes, the unemployment rate is low. What is the quality of those jobs? What do they pay? Do they pay a living wage? Are they full-time jobs? Oftentimes, they're either temporary construction jobs or they don't pay good living wages. And so if you look at consumer debt today is higher than it was at the height of the last economic collapse. We're all going into more and more debt just to be able to provide for our families and to go to school. So there are other measures of the economy that I think, unfortunately, are being ignored. They were ignored in the Obama administration. They're certainly being ignored now. And we need to find ways to improve the economy for the working class, for the middle class, for individuals who actually put their sweat and their blood into making these companies successful.
So I'll agree with you in part on Obama's economy not being as great as the Democrats like to romanticize about it. But at the end of the day, the American people are doing well under this president. The unemployment rate is down. Workforce participation is up. Median household incomes is also up. It's gone up about $5,000. and that is crumbs to Nancy Pelosi, but it's not to average Americans. Under the Bush years, it was up $400. Under the Obama years, it was up $1,000. So being that it's up $5,000 under President Trump, it is an improvement for families, and that's raising wages. So when the Democrats and you say, no, people are actually struggling, they actually are not. The incomes actually are going up. As much as people want to see, nobody's ever seeing their income go as much as they would like to have it see. But under this president, it is going up. So that, and I know you want to interrupt me, but I'm going to get to finish because you got to go on like a 3-minute diatribe there. So yes, the unemployment rate is down, workforce participation is up. We also have a president that is addressing a trade issue right now that both sides are wary about, but he's actually stepping up to address it, which many have put off because it's not politically usually favorable to address a trade war, or to engage in a trade war, to do what's necessary to get nations like China to play fair, or at least meet us in the middle, have somewhat of a level playing field. This president is doing this. He's addressing these head on. And for the Democrats, when I see him on the stage to say everyone's doing horribly under this economy, it's just not true. As Clay mentioned, the American people are doing well under this economy, which is pretty great for a president. They said that they would collapse us into another recession. That has not been the case. I know much to the Democrats' dismay, who are cheering for a recession because they'd love to beat Donald Trump, but the economy is doing well under this president.
What exactly?
Right. And after that round, they were both even with no bonuses to dice rolls. And we saw Tomi trying to repeat the same point, that wages have been going up again and again, because wages have been going up. And it is good that wages have been going up, especially when wages are going up, because when wages go up, people have more money from wages going up. And some people may not like that, but wages are going up because wages are going up. However, repeating the same point again and again does not give you any extra poonage, so let's start round 9 of this battle. Here we have a quick overview of the spaceships, with Tomi's and also with Anna's. Now Tomi is getting ready to board Anna's ship, and so her troops are already in the cargo hold. She also has her basic troops on the ship's bridge. And here is Tomi in the command room. And on the other ship, the koalas are waiting for the attack. And here is Anna in her command room. And the other crew members of the ship are here and here. And after a quick plan of action, Tomi's troops are on the move. And they all now move into a position so that they are ready to board the ship. And the koalas go on overwatch to await the expected attack. Now, as there was no combat in that round, we are going to go straight on to round 10. So, let's see what happens. And now it is the koala's turn. And the other koala squads are moving to the main doors. Well, it looks as though Tomi's boarding did not go very well in that round, and she lost 7 troopers and a squad leader. But once she gets her footing on board the ship, it should get easier. And Anna lost only 2 black koalas. Let's hope that they can keep Tomi's troops at bay. And so the scores show that Anna has 1 victory point, and Tomi has 0 victory points. And neither side got any luck or blessing that round. So, let's continue now with the rest of the debate.
But the economy is doing well under this president.
What exactly is it
Wait,
that he's...
can I please answer that or respond to that? I apologize. So, you know, one of the things that I'm concerned about, and this is genuine concern, one measure that individuals look at in order to gauge our economic success is the stock market. And one of the things that people don't realize is that these stock prices are a house of cards, because after Trump gave these massive tax cuts to the wealthy, to these corporations, I mean, the corporate tax rate used to be 35%. He lowered it to 21%, but when you consider the effective corporate tax rate, it's much lower. That's why companies like Amazon, the most profitable corporation in America, got away with paying 0 in taxes last year. So what do they do with the money that they save from those tax cuts? Do they create jobs? Well, you would think, yeah, right? That's what we keep hearing Republicans say. But in reality, they bought shares of their own stocks, corporate stock buybacks. And so those stock prices are not based on consumers stimulating the economy. They're based on corporate CEOs and executives buying shares of their own stock and artificially inflating the value. It's based on a house of cards, and we should be worried about that bubble right now.
Are you able to rebut the argument that the tax cuts that were passed by President Trump and the Republican Senate and House were effective in improving the lives of the middle class?
It was a tax cut for 80% of Americans, so yes. And I know that that's something the Democrats don't like to talk about.
But tax cuts help us. Tax cuts put people back.
Let's be
We've
respectful,
done really
guys.
well without booing so far, so let's not start that crap.
People boo a tax cut. It's amazing to me. You're welcome to pay more.
But well, let me ask you about that.
You're welcome
to. Well, let me ask you about that.
No one's making you send that check. You can send it yourself. You can donate your entire income to the government.
Listen, if you start heckling them, I'm going to let them heckle you back, so don't heckle them. The tax cuts, I guess, I'm showing my stripes here, but I hear a lot of people talk about Make America Great Again, and there's an argument that we don't build as much as we did. Our roads are not as good as they used to be, et cetera. But if you look back at periods in our country's history when we were investing in infrastructure and we were investing in what some might call social handouts, but others might call social safety nets, which we all appreciate, like Social Security, Medicare. We had tax rates that were far, far higher. Is there a danger that the continual expectation that taxes must continue to get lower and lower and lower will put us in a position as a country where we aren't able to pay for even the most basic things like fixing potholes on interstates?
Well, this president is also and has been very vocal about fixing our infrastructure. I think that that's a bipartisan effort.
He's been vocal about it, but I don't know that he's done it.
When we're talking about USMCA, that's an easy thing that should be bipartisan, and that's being stalled because of the Democrats. So if we want to go back and forth, Trump's not doing this, not doing that, it's not getting a lot of help. He has brought up infrastructure. That's been a discussion that was had, and then we went into the whole immigration and the shutdown, and then that all got delayed, and now we are in another witch hunt. So everything's being delayed.
Listen, and I don't want anybody to respond to what I'm about to say because I'm not saying this for an applause or anything, but I will make the point that I've noticed that there's a lot of Democrats' fault that comes from this side, and I don't hear as much blame coming from this side of the room. And so I wonder if it's possible to talk about what the Republican Party, I said I don't want you to respond, trust me. It's not, I'm not coming, but I'm just asking constructively, is there a way to make the arguments for what's good in the president's policy without blaming it always on the Democrats doing something?
It would be nice if we could go through a day without them blaming Trump for everything.
I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm not going to disagree with that.
So, I mean, when we're talking about, I think that, the Democrats get unfair scrutiny, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to call bullshit on that because our president can't go.
I'm talking about this stage right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, I'm not saying everything is the Democrats' fault. I'm saying there are areas of bipartisanship that we could work together on. I think infrastructure is one of them. I think USMCA is another one. There are areas of bipartisanship. When you're talking about the stock market, I don't fully disagree with you on that. I understand that that's a house of cards. I also understand that Medicare and Social Security is a house of cards. There are a lot of things that need to be addressed, and it's not going to be one really smart Republican or one really smart Democrat that's going to do it. It's going to be consensus, and I think that that's maybe where we can take our tone down and decide we have a Congress that's not acting in the interest of the American people on both sides.
Why are we not able to?
And that is the end of the debate round for round 11. And they were both even with their poonage and defence poonage there, so neither side has any bonuses. So let's see if Tomi Lauren's chances improve this round. It is now Tomi's turn. And in this turn, Tomi engages the koalas in close combat. And in the reserve phase, Tomi teleports on board to support her troops. And now it is the koala's turn for this round. And in the reserve phase, the combat koalas move into the fray. And that is the end of round 11. And Tomi did suffer some damage, but she did more damage to the koalas, though they are holding. Ana and Tomi are now equal on victory points, and neither side had any luck or blessings. So let's now continue with the debate for round 12.
Why are we not able to work on these things that we all say we agree on, like infrastructure? What do you think is and I'll come to you for an answer on that too. But what do you think is the reason that's not possible?
Well, I mean, that is tough to answer, and we live in a very polarized climate, and I think it's driven by the type of rhetoric that we're hearing in the executive branch, to be quite honest. But I will say one thing. You know, Trump had an opportunity to get things done without having to worry about bipartisanship in the first 2 years of his presidency. And
that's on Republicans.
Why didn't he build the wall then?
That's what we ask the rhinos every single day, and I press them on every single day. Trust me. Trust me. I'm with you on that one. If we can agree on something, is that I'm not happy with a lot of the establishment
So
Republicans
then maybe it's
either.
not just Democrats' fault right now still.
No, it's absolutely not. There's a lot of Republicans who are going to have hell to pay. I've never been someone who's just been a cheerleader.
Like the sky is going to open up. We agreed on something up here on the stage.
I've never been a cheerleader for the establishment Republicans.
What is an establishment Republican? What does that mean? Because the Democrats say it too. Establishment Democrats, especially when we're in this primary, establishment Republicans. It just sounds to me, as if I'm trying to be nonpartisan, it just sounds to me like Republicans don't like anyone who's not far enough right for them, and Democrats don't like anyone who's not far enough left for them. So what does establishment mean?
I want to change the framing of that question a little bit, because I don't think it's about, oh, we don't support someone who's not left enough or right enough. I think that it's all about rejecting corporatism, right? So, and corruption, really. Because we want lawmakers who actually are good faith actors and are driven by their ideology, driven by their principles and their values. On both the left and the right, our entire system's been hijacked by corporate interests, by legalized bribery. And so none of these lawmakers really represent us unless they reject that money. And honestly, it's very rare to find anyone who's willing to reject it. That's why someone like Bernie Sanders was able to start a movement. Because he said, no corporate PAC money, no big donors. I'm only going to accept small dollar donations. And he's been so principled. You go back 20 years, and he's been preaching the same thing. He believes in what he says, and that's why he's so appealing.
Do you think that's the same definition on the Republican side?
No, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree with that. I think that it's the populist movement on both sides, although it's different. That's why you see the rise of Bernie Sanders. That's why you saw the rise of Donald Trump. And I do think that that's more in the people's interest. We have different ways of going about it, but it is that core populist movement. And that's when we both say we're not happy with the establishment. It's because they do put their own interests, their own after office interests, their own current office interests, the dollar signs ahead of the American people. And that's a frustration on both sides. Maybe we can agree on that.
And that is the end of debate round 12. And there was very little poonage there because they kept on agreeing. So, let's go back to those ships and see how the battle is going. It is Tomi's turn, and her leads move into combat. And that combat round was too much for some of the koalas, and they run away. And now it is the koala's turn. And the koala combat squad is jumping into the fray. And so is the koala light squad with their shotguns. And after that round, Tomi did quite a bit of damage, but she suffered quite a bit herself. And she's in a precarious position here, although she is now leading with victory points. And in that round, we had our first luck point awarded to Ana. So, let's now continue with the next part of this debate.
Well, who would be establishment characters in your mind? You don't even have, I mean, if you're
Our
willing.
good friend Pierre Delecto is one.
Oh, Mitt Romney, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Of course, I'm not a fan many times of Lindsey Graham. I've been very vocal in my opposition to Lindsey Graham. I'm not fully supportive of Mitch McConnell. I mean, there are several, and there are leaders in the Republican Party that I don't feel like support this president, but more than that, I don't feel like necessarily support the hardworking conservatives in this country that elected them. And I'm sure she has the same on her side of the aisle.
Oh, definitely. I mean, one of the things that Hillary Clinton got a lot of criticism for on the left was her ties to corporate interests. And I think that, you know, for establishment politicians who are paying attention and actually care about these types of discussions, they need to understand that people are paying attention. People are looking into what influences their campaigns and why they push for the types of policies they push for. And if there's a lot of corporate influence, it's very unlikely that these politicians are going to look out for the best interests for the average American or of the average American.
What do you think the biggest threat for young people in this country is right now?
Socialism. Yeah, I do.
Do you feel like socialism is... define that for me, though.
That socialism is taking hold? Yes, I absolutely...
Well, define what you mean by socialism taking... I mean, what defines socialism? Because I think we get hear it thrown around a lot, but there are, you know, I think, maybe I'm wrong, but I think there are differing opinions on exactly what people are talking about. Socialism in Venezuela is different than socialism in Bolivia, is different than what some people might call socialism in Norway and Sweden. They all have aspects of it. Canada even does too. But what is the socialism that you're most afraid of?
Well, like when you hear Bernie Sanders, which you know many of you are a fan of, but when you hear him on stage saying the government's going to give you a job, the government's going to give you free health care, the government's going to give you free college, you work for the government, you live by the government.
Do you not think that's a little hyperbole, though? I mean,
No,
has he said the government's going to give you a job?
No,
the
federal jobs
government's gonna give
program.
you-
He absolutely did.
But
he
it-
absolutely did.
About making things
Kind of like the
available,
New
isn't it?
Deal, you know?
Is it not about making things available to people? Is it not about making college available and accessible to people versus handing everyone an opportunity, handing everyone college tuition?
You live in the United States of America, you've been handed an opportunity that most people don't have, first and foremost.
I won't disagree with that, but I was handed and I'm not really, I'm trying to disappear, but I'm not, very tough for me, but I was handed an elementary school education for free and a middle school and a high school education for free. Why am I not entitled to college education for free? What makes that socialism, but free high school education is not socialism?
Who made that decision in this country that we were going up until high school? And if you want to talk about
But
college
could we not
debt,
make the decision that we're going through college?
who's going to pay for it? Who's going to
College
pay
used
for
to be
it?
free in
who pay for
America.
high school.
Public colleges used to be free in America. They were properly funded and they were free. I'm talking about public colleges. They used to be free in America. All the things that Bernie Sanders is campaigning on are things that Americans used to have, but they were taken away from us just to give the top 1% the giant tax cuts that they're enjoying today. So it's not like what he's proposing is radical. What he's proposing are policies that used to make America great, policies that gave Americans opportunities to lift themselves up by the bootstraps and actually create the type of lives that they deserve if they work hard enough for it. The type of lives that my family was able to accomplish, you know, through all the hard work, the sweat, the tears. I mean, I could never do what my parents did today because they had certain opportunities that we just don't have anymore. Free education, I'm talking about college education, is like a fantasy now, and it's not a radical idea considering the fact that we used to have it.
I mean, I want to give you an...
Whoa! And in that round, we finally had some debating, with Ana really piling on the poonage. And for this next round, Ana will receive a +1 to hit for all rolls and a +1 to the strength of all her hits. And it looks bad for Tomi for this next round. So, let's start. And wisely, Tomi retreats back to her own ship. And her 2 Fadic troopers run off and hide. One hides in the medibay, and the other hides in Ana's room. And in the reserve phase, Tomi makes it onto her ship with 2 of her elites. And we check on the 2 troopers that are on board Ana's ship, and they both rally this turn. Now, let's see a plan of the 2 ships. And it is now Ana's turn, and her troops hunt down the 2 Fadic troopers on her ship. And now Ana boards Tomi's ship. So, there wasn't really that much that happened in that round. It was more of a clean-up for Ana. But as we can see now, both sides are equal with victory points, with 3 each. And neither had any luck or blessing. So, let's continue on with this debate.
Opportunity to expand on it, because I asked you what the fear was. You said socialism, and then I jumped in. So is it that you fear, do you fear dictatorship like we see in Venezuela? What about socialism is it that you feel is the most imminent threat?
Big government, to me, is the biggest threat. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You can either be free or you can be dependent on the government. When the people talk about being socialist Democrats or democratic socialists, that's a really nice way to package it, but the 2 terms are an oxymoron. If you're dependent on the government for everything, you are not truly free. You cannot live in a democracy where you are then dependent upon the government for all of your worldly desires, needs. Now, the federal job program that Bernie was pushing on the stage, your health care, your college, when you're dependent on the government for all those things, then you're going to just tax the wealthy. I'm going to tell you this, the thing about the wealthy is they can move, and they're not going to stay there under plans
They should
like
move then, but they don't.
They will. They
don't. They do the tax shelters, but they never move.
But what do you think is going to happen?
Especially the oil companies, where are they going to go?
Well, right now, what we're seeing happening in California is a microcosm of what's going to happen in the rest of this country if we allow big government to take over. You're seeing companies leave California for that reason. You're seeing people leave California for that reason. Overtaxed, overregulated, government is too big. That's why they're taking Toyota to Texas. That's why they're fleeing.
So I want to give you an example of...
Okay, well that's the end of debate round 13, and this time Tomi Lauren came off better with the poonage. So for this next round she has +1 to all her hit rolls. And now Tomi gets her crew ready for Ana's boarding of her ship. And Tomi's 2 elites and basic crew are guarding the stairs. Other crew members are guarding the corridors, and Tomi has retired to her room. And now it is Ana's turn. She is in the cargo bay and she is going up to the next floor. And that's the end of that battle round, with each side only suffering 1 casualty. And as we can see, victory points are still 3-3, and there was no more luck or blessing during that round. So, on with the debate.
I'll give you an example of big government. I want to get your thoughts on it, because this is something the government does. And when I say government, it means all of us as U.S. taxpayers, right? So we fund the research and development for all these massive corporations. Our tax dollars fund the research and development of pharmaceutical drugs. Then those companies, of course, turn around and they price gouge us, right? We help fund the research and development for massive corporations like Google, right? So big government, I know it sounds real scary, but we're the government. We as US taxpayers, we're the ones who create these successful corporations. And all I'm saying is that we deserve something in return. And unfortunately, we've gotten the complete opposite. And I'm just tired of these talking points because, look, I think big government is a problem when they're telling me what I can do with my body. I think big government is a problem when they tell us who we can and can't marry or what type of sex we're allowed to have, which was actually a thing back in the day. That's big government. But when it comes to social services that we've paid into, we deserve to get something back.
And how is that working out? How are those things we've paid into working out?
Well, they're severely underfunded just so we can give the wealthy massive tax cuts.
If your solution to everything, and I don't know if it's yours, but it certainly is Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, their solution to everything is tax the wealthy, tax the wealthy. If those wealthy folks leave, or they do put their money elsewhere in whatever creative way you can fantasize about in your mind, and we don't have that money, then who pays for all these social programs? Who is going to get pinched? Well, I can give you the answer because we live in California and we know it's the middle class that gets pinched. In California, you've got the very, very wealthy that can afford it, and you've got the homeless. And then you've got the middle who are fleeing to the Inland Empire, they're fleeing to Phoenix, they're fleeing to Dallas, Texas. They're fleeing because they can't afford it. They can't.
Right. Well, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in California, and I don't know if this one debate it gives us enough time to cover it, but there is severe corruption in California. There's an issue with foreign investment in real estate in California, which artificially inflates the property values and leads to homelessness in California. You have real estate developers who are running amok, and that's part of the corruption. I mean, we unfortunately don't have time to get into all of that, but the idea that wealthy people are going to flee, that these corporations are going to flee, I mean, we still subsidize oil companies to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars every year. Where are they going to go? The oil is here. You know, like that's an example. One other example is the top marginal tax rate in the United States used to be 91%. They didn't leave. Okay, so if you want to leave, have at it. But I think that if you're living in this country and you've taken advantage of the opportunities that this country has given you, you're not allowed to shut the door behind you. And I'm not talking about equality of outcome, I'm talking about equality of opportunity. We should have a system that's fair, that gives people their opportunity to shine and work themselves up the economic ladder.
And
that's all.
We agree on that statement.
Okay, Anna was very strong in that round and has for her bonuses a +2 to hit, a +1 strength, and a +1 toughness. And because she got 2 epic poonages during that round, these bonuses will last for 2 rounds. So, let's get on with the battle. And Tomi moves more of her troops into combat in order to defend the ship. And now it is Anna's turn, and she floods Tomi's ship with combat koalas. And after that battle round, Tomi only has her ship's basic crew left, and Anna only lost 1 light koala. Anna now has 5 victory points, and Tomi still has only 3. I think Tomi really needs some blessings in the next round. So, let's continue with round 15. And seeing that her troops are in trouble, Tomi gets involved in the fight. And that's all for Tomi's turn. And now it is Anna's turn, and the rest of her troops are moving up the stairs from the cargo bay. She now has troops on all the decks of Tomi's ship. And after that round, Ana actually only managed to get rid of one of Tomi's crew, and Ana suffered 2 casualties, which means she didn't really take advantage of her bonuses. With regards to the victory points, they have stayed the same, and neither side got any luck or blessings. So we continue now with the debate.
We agree on that statement. We don't agree how to get there. I believe innovation is fostered through competition, through the free market.
And taxpayer money through research and development.
But you realize that the government's also funding research and development for all of your alternative fuel companies, for all the research. I mean, it's not just, they're not just fueling corporate. I mean, to say that our government, our taxpayer dollars are funding corporations and then to not look at all the other areas that they're funding, is government spending a problem?
I would
Absolutely.
imagine that if someone developed an alternative energy, historically speaking, the government would let a company take it over and profit from it, correct?
But not in Bernie Sanders' America, not in Elizabeth Warren's America. Innovation is fostered through the free marketplace and competition. It is not fostered through handouts, through socialism, through government regulation. And that's why we're seeing the economy doing well now, because President Trump has gotten rid of a lot of the Obama-era regulations that were crushing small business. That is still the backbone of our nation. And when small businesses can't function, then they can't hire, and then they can't have high-paying jobs. When they're given all these government mandates of $15 an hour minimum wage, then they can't hire as many employees. So yes, those employees that they have might be making what they consider a living wage, but then the other person just doesn't have a job. So then they rely on the social program. That's not a way to live.
I agree with you in that small businesses would have a difficult time paying $15 an hour to their employees, which is why I think it makes all the sense in the world to stop subsidizing corporations that are already very successful and subsidize small businesses so they can pay a living wage and also grow themselves.
So it was...
Well, in that round, Tomi agreed that taxpayers' money should not be used to pay for the research of big companies in order for these companies to make profits, but instead it should be used for the benefit of the people. And then she said that this would happen in Bernie Sanders' America. So I guess she's for Bernie Sanders. And then she went on about things that didn't follow from her first point, and said some crazy, contradictory things. So she has been awarded 2 face palms in that round, and so for this next battle round, she has -1 to weapon skill, -1 to bow skill, and -1 to toughness. And as Tomi's on the back foot for this round, and also wounded, she heads for safety. And some of her crew go on Overwatch. And now it is Ana's turn to do some damage. And in the reserve phase, Ana's koalas give chase to Tomi Lauren. So, Tomi has a gradually diminishing crew, but can Ana keep up the assault? Ana still leads with victory points, and she was lucky in that round. Okay, so let's now go on to the last part of the debate.
So it was interesting to me when you rebutted what I said a second ago. You said, well, it would in Bernie Sanders' America, and it would in Elizabeth Warren's America. And my initial reaction was to say, well, that actually makes the argument for Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, because, well, to certain people, what I said and what you said would happen in their worlds. That's what a certain part of this audience wants. The people who support Bernie Sanders, the people who support Elizabeth Warren, they think that's great. To people who agree with you more, they think that's horrible. So how do we, I mean, it seems like on both sides we're handing out facts on this side and facts on this side and talking points on this side and on this side that that are really continuing to speak to our audience, and we're not doing too much to change anybody's mind. If you came here supportive of Ana, you probably are going to leave supportive of Ana, and if you came here supportive of Tomi, you're going to leave supportive of Tomi. What do you, and listen, and that's great, whoever you came here for, but what do you find is most effective for you when you need to change somebody's mind?
When I go into conversations like this, I don't have any delusions of changing Anna's mind or yours or anybody else's. I think it's about having a conversation in this country about our values, and they are different. And it's okay to have conversations about differing values, because that's why we have the two parties that we have and the various political ideologies that we have. We have conservatism, we have liberalism, we have progressivism, we have Republicans, Democrats, we have everybody in the middle, libertarians, all of that, to have a discussion. Sometimes there's not a solution that both sides can agree to. That's why we have Congress that can hopefully get somewhere in that middle. Right now, that's not happening.
But don't that make people mad? It seems like, to me,
people
get more mad if you find a solution somewhere in the middle than if you choose something. I mean, listen, I think a lot of people have made the argument that one of the reasons President Trump has doubled down on his base and only his base is because he made a calculation with Steve Bannon that it doesn't matter whether I compromise or whether I moderate, I'm never going to win the people on the left. So what's the point in moderating or compromising?
But he did win people on the left. He won states that he wouldn't otherwise have.
He won states that he otherwise wouldn't have.
Well, those are people in those states.
Okay, well, we can disagree about the fact that the numbers are certainly not in his favor right now, polling-wise. I'm just saying.
Come see me in 2020, Clay. I'm interested
Girl, I
to
will
have
be
that
right here with
conversation.
you. I'll plan on it. But you understand what I'm saying. We're still playing to our ends, and I think what you said is wonderful. We do have differing opinions, but if we keep shouting in the end zones and nobody's, so what about you? I mean, how do you? Because I have to assume that, yes, we say what we want to say because we are proud of what we believe, but we do have to at least sway some people to not only see it our way, but to understand that maybe your way is right or your way is right. What works for you?
Okay, go. And that was the last debate part of the battle. And Tomi came back at the end with a bit of poonage, which was good because she had a hard time in the debate because she seemed a little outnumbered. So, for these final two rounds, Tomi has a +1 to all her hits. Let's go. Tomi decides to retreat to the bridge, and her troops cover her retreat. It is the end of Tomi's turn, and Tomi is now on her bridge. And now it is Ana's turn, and her koalas close in on the bridge. And another round is over. Ana is whittling down Tomi's troops, and Ana only had one casualty in that round. As we can see, Ana has 6 victory points to Tomi's 3 victory points, and no luck or blessing were gained in that round. So now we go on to the final battle round to see the final results of this conflict. And Tomi is holding out on the bridge. And that's it for Tomi's turn, so let's now go on to Ana. And the combat koala leader moves into position so he has a view of the bridge. And so does Ana, because they have bomb potions. And that is the end of the battle. Tomi suffered an awful lot of damage and was knocked unconscious, and Anna, although suffering quite a bit of damage, was victorious. And at the end, Anna has 7 victory points to Tomi's 4. And in that battle, we had very little luck or blessing.
Okay, so I'm now happy to report from the news desk for Lolaland that we have managed to repel the attack from Trumpland, and now we just have to deal with John Bolton's ground forces, and also we hear that Ben Shapiro is also going to be doing an attack as well. So stay tuned, and let's hope that Lolaland will be victorious after all this fighting. So keep watching the Faking News, and God bless. Okay? Goodbye for now.